Hey everyone, welcome to McKellar Motivational Monday, late night chat version of it. I'm going to invite Facebook Live to join us as well. And I just want to say that someone last week, I think, asked for a scope about grief. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. Hey Mom. And then a few other things too. And a little bit about the Vegas shooting, which is just still mind-blowing. So I'm going to go ahead and, yes, D-Squad. And by the way, thank you so much in advance for your shares. I don't think I can see shares. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't seem that I can. So hey Carrie, I'd really appreciate it if you shared, and I just thank you in a blanket statement, since I can't see them individually. So thank you. I see them later on Twitter if you share through Twitter. All right, let's see. Let's go ahead and go live here. Facebook keeps changing their thing. It looks different now, but I think I did this right. Thanks, everyone. Facebook Live is being weird now. Come on, you can do it. It says starting live video, but like it hasn't started. Is the connection bad? Because I saw my mom just rejoin, which kind of tells me that she had to leave and come back. Thank you, Morley. Appreciate it. Oh my God. You were there? Jen in Vegas? Oh my goodness. Yes, it is very late today. Busy day. I guess that didn't work. Let's try one more time. Connection is good? Oh, good. Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. All right, well, I'm trying to do it on Facebook Live. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Yeah, so I actually have some family who lives in Vegas. And they're all fine, but my cousin actually knows a few people who are shot, who are in surgery, so I think they're going to be fine. But it's just absolutely, I can't start my video. Why not? Why not Facebook Live? What's your problem? Yeah, so there's a lot of people that were affected by this shooting, and it's just, you know, I mean, I'd love to say that it's about, you know, oh, we should do more about gun safety. It's the people, right? Why? I mean, yes, sure, but I don't understand what's going on. Do you guys, right? You're shocked. It's senseless. Okay, I'm gonna give Facebook Live one more chance because I'd like to join all you guys. Tom Petty passed away too. You know, it's so weird. I saw something online that said that was just a rumor, but did he actually? Oh, hello. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Facebook. It took me a second to join up. I'm here on Facebook Live and also on Periscope. Right now, we're talking about the Vegas shooting, and he was probably psychotic. You know, I read all about this guy who pulled out machine guns in Vegas, and it didn't seem like he had any criminal background at all. And I mean, he lived a bit of an isolated life, but you know, there were no signs. There were no big signs. And the guns that he bought, he did it legally, and he had no criminal record. There's no reason to think that he would have done something like that. There's just no reason behind it. I've read everything I could find to read about what the motivations could have possibly been. Yeah, so I have a bunch of, hey guys, hi Brett and Kurt, Garib. Yeah, Mike, a bunch of cousins who live in Vegas, and they're all fine, but one of my cousins in particular was actually there about an hour before the concert and knows several people who are in the hospital right now who are probably going to be fine, but they're in surgery from having been shot. It's just insane. And, you know, yes, financially stable, girlfriend, makes no sense. Right. Yeah, it's just, it's like something from a movie shooting out of the 32nd floor hotel room. Yeah, and what was he going through? And then he shot himself? I mean, I don't know. Are you ever fine after being shot? I don't know, Sophia. That's a really good question. Do you believe there is evil? You know, I have to say that I think in today's PC world that a lot of times we aren't allowed to think that there are bad guys anymore. It's like, well, not everyone, you know, there's no bad guys because, you know, if someone does something bad, well, they were probably troubled in their childhood. But if you think back to the comics and the cartoons when there were bad guys, like Batman, it seems like the bad guys in those things They all had troubled childhoods too, but we were still allowed to call them bad guys. Look, there's good and evil in everyone, right? We know that. We all know that from experience, heck. But in the extreme cases where it affects other people like this, you know, I have to wonder, sometimes they're bad guys. Anyway. Yeah. Yes, Neil, I agree. That could have been a red flag, buying that many guns. He saw so many gun movies and video games? I don't know, really? I don't, right? Yeah, they're definitely bad people. I don't know, that sounds like a bunch of rumors. I didn't hear anything like that, Lupus. Yeah, so here's the thing. What do we do with this, right? Crazy world, Daniel. Yeah, I agree. Just trying to process, Rob. It's so true. And how do you process something like that? I don't think you do. First, we look for a reason. Not really anything there. We can't say, oh, it was a religious thing, or oh, he was, yeah, mentally unstable and released from an institution where, goodness, we need more money for the institution so they don't get out. No, that doesn't help in this situation. He was, right. There's no room for politics here. It's just something that really sucks. Like, really sucks. Somebody was very troubled and there was no signs. There were no signs, no way to, like, reach out to this person and get them help that they obviously needed somehow. Predatory world. Yes, heroic stories keep emerging out of how they help the victims. Yes. And yes, focusing on the positive is absolutely helpful. Yeah, sometimes there's just bad stuff happens sometimes. So what do we do with it? First of all, and I want to tie this into grief a little bit because someone did ask me, you know, if I could do something about dealing with grief and the loss of a loved one. And there are people out there who are dealing with that right now because of this particular incident. I printed up some quotes about grief that I liked. Puerto Rico still needs water. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on, you guys. Whatever we can do to help, there's so many of us who can do some little thing to help. And so if we keep doing those little things, they add up. Yeah, Colin, you think you had a plan for a while? Yes, love needs to be the focus. I completely agree. Vegas people are coming together. Well, evil personified. Yeah. Well, in that moment, for sure. And in whatever moments that he was bringing him to that. Anyway. Mental health coverage is important. Yes, Nelly, but was he even a candidate for health coverage like that? Did he have any mental issues that were known? I don't think so. So I've been finding out that there was nothing for us to point to. Nothing for us to feel better about it. Say, oh, well, if we'd only done this, then, okay, so that's how we can avoid this from happening in the future. And there doesn't seem to be anything like that. So that kind of comfort is gone. Or absent, I should say. But just to speak to, well, the reason why I'm speaking to events like this is not to be depressed, but we have to process. And in fact, that's part of what I'm going to talk about with regard to grief. Processing this stuff is absolutely vital. Because yes, there should be gun weapons checks at hotels. I agree. I thought they had cameras in hotel rooms in Vegas. Wasn't that a thing? I don't know. Could we have a virtual hug today? We should all do a virtual hug, okay, you guys? Okay, ready? And this is, you just hug your own shoulders. And then we all just close your eyes and just pretend like you're being hugged by all of ourselves, okay? Ready? Okay, we're going to do a virtual hug. All right. 1, 2, 3. I hope you guys felt a little hug. All right. So, yes, there's lots of sadness going on, and there should be sadness. That's okay. And part of dealing with grief is allowing yourself to feel sad and allowing yourself to ask these questions. Why did it happen? How could this happen? You know, not just being like, oh, I'm going to bury this feeling because that's uncomfortable and I'm just going to go check on the latest Instagram pictures or whatever. No, it's important to actually feel stuff because you can't process it and move on if you don't honor those feelings. That felt great. Need to do that more often. Virtual hug. One person shouldn't affect 300 million other Americans. Well, that's interesting. But another another point that I was going to make is about how we can all affect each other in so many ways, good and bad. But let's just talk about grief for a moment. So this is to any of you who have lost somebody close to you, and I think a lot of us have. Well, in this quote, depends on your age too. This says, everyone who lives long enough to love deeply will experience great losses. Don't let fear of loss or the losses themselves take away your ability to enjoy the wonderful life that is yours. So that's just a reminder that, of course, it's to be expected. Part of why we get stuck in bad feelings is because we're saying, well, why me? Why did this have to happen? And it's going to happen if you live long enough. You're going to experience loss because that's just part of life. It's part of the circle of life. So that's something that might be useful. And it was written by someone named Barbara Cutie Cooper. Never heard of her. I don't know who she is, but she wrote a book called Fall in Love for Life, Inspiration from a 73-Year Marriage. That's intriguing on its own. 73-year marriage, that's pretty amazing. But the point is, she says that if you live long enough to love deeply, you will experience loss, and that's part of life. And if you can embrace that and accept it, then you'll survive a lot more easily, and you'll enjoy the experience more. Another quote about grief. This is kind of interesting, and I like this idea. It says, but in all of the sadness, when you're feeling that your heart is empty and lacking, you've got to remember that grief isn't about the absence of love. Grief is the proof that love is still there. And that's kind of a beautiful idea, isn't it? That if you're feeling grief, it's because love is still there. If you didn't feel grief, that's a proof that love is gone, which is even more sad somehow. But if you're feeling stuff, that means you still have love in your heart, and it's just looking for someplace to land, I guess. So that's something to keep in mind. That's written by someone named Tessa Schaefer. I think it's a book called Heaven Has No Regrets. So I thought it was, you used to feel it, Mystic Ninja? Well, you can again. You can again if you want to. Griefshare.org. Thank you, Faith, Hope, Love. Griefshare.org. I'm assuming this is a website with all sorts of quotes and resources for people who are going through grief. And we are talking about grief in part inspired by someone who requested it last week, and I didn't catch the person's name. Also because of what happened in Vegas last night with the Vegas shooting, and because there's so much grief going on tonight about that. Yes, they need more metal detectors in concerts. Well, I don't think he was at the concert. I think he was in his hotel room. I think he was shooting from his hotel room. I think. I'm not sure about that part. I was reading about the guy himself. Devin Harris, do I think violence will end one day? Gosh, I don't know. If violence were to end, like actually end, I think that would mean that we were all completely enlightened. And if we were all completely enlightened, wouldn't we be just sort of buzzing up to heaven or whatever and join another plane and not have any use for this planet anymore? This planet certainly seems to be a place for us to experience all different kinds of emotions. All kinds of emotions, the spectrum. So, I'm not sure about that. Writing about it helps. Absolutely. Yes, he was from his hotel room. Thank you, Abraham, for clearing that up for me. Yeah, thank you, Pat. Giselle, yes, he was, yeah, right, Mark, from 32 stories up. And he shot himself. Here's a third quote about grief that I wanted to share. I really liked a lot. It's a little bit longer, but not much. I just really liked it. It sums it up really well about why grief itself is actually important. So if you're feeling grief, you don't have to feel like you failed somehow. Grief is an important part of life. And listen to this. If we can't feel into the heart of grief, we can't truly move on to experience hope and joy. We can't be present to what is now and what is next because we are bound by the loss and sorrow that holds us to the past. Grief has to flow. I love that idea. Grief has to flow. Let it flow through you. It has to be carried, not just by you, but by the others with you, by your community, until it transforms into the next rightful calling of your heart to action. I'm going to read that last part again. Grief has to flow. It has to be carried, not just by you, but by the others with you, by your community, until it transforms into the next rightful calling of your heart to action. So it can carry you. It can carry you from where you are now to where you are meant to be next. Flow the grief. Yes, Dave. Yes, I understand that, Matthew. Grief for the loss of civility in general. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this senseless violence? So I read you some quotes about grief for how you can deal with grief on your own if you are feeling that personally in your life and you're struggling with it, inspired by the Vegas thing. But speaking about the Vegas thing just in general, if you're not somebody who was directly impacted by it, but you are like me and like a lot of people just absolutely horrified by it and fed up, what do we do with it? Where do we go from here? I mean, yes, we can go online and rant about it and share and see what other people are doing, and that's all good. That's all part of the process of it. But then what? Do we just move on and wait for the next tragedy to say, like, pray for Vegas on our Instagram feed and pray for so-and-so and pray for Puerto Rico and pray for Los Angeles? What do we do besides that? There's got to be more than just that. There has to be. So you feel very little about it. Well, maybe because there's been so much of it, right? Turn the TV off? Yes. Here's what I want to say about that. Is we're horrified because we can't believe how other people are acting. Blah, blah, blah. The answer has always got to be, the next step has always got to be, what about me? What am I doing? What am I doing? What are you guys doing? What are we all doing with our lives? How are we being a positive influence? If all that stuff is bad, you know, Michael Jackson had a song called Man in the Mirror. And I was very young when I first heard it, and I didn't get it at all. I was like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. There's like all those criminals out there. They're doing bad stuff. I don't need to change. As I got older, I realized, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yes, we need to stop pointing fingers. It's always easy, Benetronics, to point fingers. But how about the man in the mirror, or the woman in the mirror, whoever, or the undecided in the mirror? What about us? What can we be doing? We can be doing stuff. If that guy can pull out a machine gun and mow down a bunch of people, that's a lot of impact from one person. What about the impact that we can have? What about the impact that the one person that's sitting in your skin right now, what can he or she do? That's our responsibility. Our responsibility has to be to give back in a way that actually affects a lot of people. We can do that. It's a ripple effect. Even just being really nice to the people around you. Do you know that you have the power to change the whole day of several people that you interact with all day long? Naomi, I disagree. I believe that alone we can make a big impact. I really believe that. Big is relative, I suppose, but you can affect a lot of people. You can affect a lot of people through your day, either by giving into, you know, whatever lazy, selfish feelings we all have, or just sort of giving into them and snapping at people during the day, or by digging deep and looking around us and realizing, what can I do in this moment to make someone else's day better? What can I do right now? Yes, one kind act at a time. You're going to be less critical? Thank you, Rob. You know, I've been hoping that, I'm kidding. I've been hoping that can Rob just stop being so critical? I'm so sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. Thank you, Rob. That's a wonderful thing to do. We can all be less critical. We should all be more like Rob. Let's be less critical. And, by the way, less critical of yourselves. Instead, look for opportunities. You know what? Maybe I've been selfish, and maybe I've been critical, and maybe I've been all these things. Well, don't, like, dwell on it. Go, okay, now what? Now what? What's next? Being curious, I found, is one of the best ways to avoid judgment. So be curious. Be curious. Yes, you love finding ways to brighten someone's day, Carrie. I bet you do that a lot. You seem just like a great person. Thank you, Young Money 7. What a cool name. Yes, be kind. We need to come together. Holly, yes, but even without coming together, you can do, yes, Jose, one smile can change the world. Yes, Mark, it does apply to the guy. Exactly, that's part of my point, is that we all have the ability to affect a lot of lives. We just don't usually think of it that way. We don't usually take those opportunities. But be curious about what those opportunities are. And if you stay curious about it, open-minded and curious every day, how can I make a lot of people's lives better? You're going to think of stuff. You're going to think of stuff, and you know what? It's going to feel good to you too. Now, we live in a world, we live in a society of consumer, of companies that want us to be consumers mostly, right? Well, I heard this quote the other day. Creation, not consumption. Instead of just being consumers, buying products and clicking on things, create something beautiful for people. Create an experience, a beautiful experience for someone, or look for the ways that you interact with the world the most, and how do you make that into something that is a gift for other people? You guys can do it. A simple hello. Yes, absolutely. I'm sure, Corey, and the whole nation is mouths dropped open, aghast, trying to figure out how this could have possibly happened so unexpectedly. Yes, Jeremiah, I am on the West Coast. React positively to microaggression. That is challenging, but yes, that's great. Microaggression. You mean like when people are kind of snippy with you and stuff? Just be the grown-up? Yeah. You know what? Yes, be the difference, Nicole. Absolutely. Thank you. Want to race? Thank you. I always give. That's why I probably always get blessed back. That's beautiful. My money, something says, I always give back. That's why I'm always so blessed. That's true. Karma is real. And I'm not sure if it's because there's some energy that we put out that comes back to us, or if it's actually because we create our own rose-tinted glasses. It's probably at least part of it. That's real. Kindness does not have to be a lost art, John. And that's the point. Tiffany Lynn Tribute is asking for a prayer. Let's all pray for Tiffany for a moment. I'm not sure why, but why not? In fact, let's pray for everyone. Just for a moment. Yes, trust God. Whether you call it God or something else, who knows? Trust the world. And trust that there is some sort of energy out there that supports us all. And yes, bad things happen. And then we need to use those things to be inspired. Be inspired, you guys. Be inspired to do the opposite. Oh, thank you. Prayers for all, Nicole. Yes. Just be nice to people. That's your motto, Renee. That's a beautiful motto. Charles, I don't know why love is so difficult for some people. But I think it's because of the fear of loss. Probably because of rejection. I mean, let's face it. Mostly the reason we are afraid of love is because we are afraid of being rejected in our pursuit of love. What we have to learn is there are worse things. There really are worse things. We've all been through a lot of stuff. No, Daniel, I don't have any automatic weapons. No, I do not. Good question, good question. Thank you, Daniel. Self-criticism is a huge issue you have, Will. Well, a lot of us. You know, look, self-criticism is not a bad thing entirely because it means you care, and that's nice. A lot of people who don't even care. But, you know, you got to give yourself a break, too. Look for the good stuff. Look for the good stuff. Make sure that the voice in your head that's being critical is actually yours, too. That's a big one. A lot of times when we have critical voices in our heads, it's actually the voice of someone else, either a parent or, I don't know, some other influence on us when we were a child. Becky Slater is my real sister. Her name is Crystal McKellar. Yes, she is. Thank you, Carrie. He says, my automatic weapon is my amazing heart and personality. That's very sweet. But I don't have an automatic weapon. Thank you, Andy. Here to find you along with the rest of us. Yes, it is. Oh, Alex, I'm sure it's hard, but I have heard too that the community is coming together, and I think that we just have to look for the positive after something like this happens. After you deal with the shock and the grief and all the things, I read you those quotes. If you didn't hear the quotes, they're great. Maybe I'll read them again at some point, but it's worth checking out. If you watch the replay, you can go back and see them. But after we deal with all that, it has to be, what can we take from this? And if it's the community coming together, remembering how important it is to meet your neighbors and embrace community, because we're all on our phones all the time, and our communities aren't the people that we're near, and that's actually really important. That in-person interaction and that in-person community is important. And when something like this happens, Oftentimes communities come together in a way that they hadn't ever had to before. So look for the positive. Yes. Thank you, Elliot. Yeah, people helping strangers in Vegas. Absolutely. Brian, you did. Yeah. I laughed like I've never laughed before watching Impractical Jokers myself. That's why I went on the show, because I like the show so much. Oh, Stingray, I wish I could do it to your daughter in math, but I have books that can help, and it's kind of like the same thing. Math doesn't suck. Yeah, there have been so many disasters in a short time, Daniel, it's true. Well, you know, this is where we can all come together. We can do what we can. If you can donate money, you can donate your time. There's lots of stuff we can do. And I think embracing our own power that we have, the power to actually affect good change, is an important reminder, because we all sit around feeling so helpless. The world is so big, the government is so big, and all these issues are so big, and we end up feeling like we don't actually affect change. And we really can, at least for the people around us. And that's huge, because there's a ripple effect, you guys. So I'm going to need to wrap it up here in a minute, because I need to go to sleep. Everyone in this house is asleep right now except for me, because I was like, I didn't do my Kelly Motivational Monday today. I have something I want to talk about. One of my ministries. Thank you. Well, I appreciate all of you guys so much. You know, when I'm sitting around and just thinking about this stuff, it's so nice to connect with all sorts of people about it. And I really appreciate all your thoughts. I wish that I could have read all of them out loud, and even seen all of them. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you for your follows and for your shares, and thank you for being here and for your thoughts. And have a wonderful, wonderful week, you guys. Remember, you are powerful beings. You are actually very powerful. We are all, as individuals, extremely powerful and have the power to change the lives of the people around us. So think about how you can do that. It's all of our responsibility. It's powerful. Feel your power. Feel your power. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. You are the D Squad. Thank you for watching the Danny Can. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you soon. Bye.